All right, let's jump into this deep dive. You're ready to talk business and bouncing back from failures.
Always ready to dissect some business wisdom.
Perfect. So we've got this Forbes article, right? They talked to like 20 different business leaders.
Yeah, a nice mix, too, from all sorts of industries.
Exactly. And the whole focus is on what they learned from those, times things didn't exactly go to plan.
The not-so-successful moments, you could
Yeah,
say.
exactly. But it's really fascinating how these leaders see those moments, not as like a full stop.
More like a comma.
A comma, yeah. I like that. So one thing that almost all of them said was failure. It's pretty much inevitable.
Part of the journey.
Yeah, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow as a person even. They all basically said you got to expect some bumps in the road.
And not just expect them, but really learn from them.
Right, like use those experiences to become better, stronger.
They talk about this mindset shift.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing failure as like a personal defeat, they see it as valuable data.
Data, huh? I like that.
Yeah, like a feedback loop. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about asking, okay, what can I learn from this?
Oh, I remember one of the CEOs, Todd Price, I think. He had a great quote.
From Perimeter Roofing, yeah.
Yeah, him. He said something like, failure is just a setup for a successful comeback.
He nailed it.
Right.
It's not the end. It's just a step.
Don't let it get you down. Just part of the process.
And he's not the only one, Guy Darmaganov. He's the CEO over at Acronis. He even said that if you anticipate failure...
You're already ahead of the game.
Exactly. You can develop strategies, better ways to deal with it when it does happen.
Okay, so it's not about trying to, avoid failure altogether.
It's about expecting it, being prepared.
And having the tools ready to handle it.
Tools like resilience and perseverance.
Ah, that's where Asim Goyal comes in, right? The guy from Factum Global Asia.
Yeah, he talked about how the road to success, it's not a straight line. It's more like...
Twisty, turning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And full of roadblocks.
So really, it sounds like great leadership isn't about avoiding those roadblocks. It's about navigating them.
Knowing which way to go when you hit one. Now, think about your own work for a second. Have you ever hit a roadblock?
Oh, for sure.
Did you see it as a failure? Or maybe as data? A chance to learn and adjust your approach?
That's a great question to think about. Now, I'm curious about the specific advice these leaders give. We've talked about this idea of embracing failure, but how do we actually put that into practice?
Well, a lot of them, they really stressed building a work culture that's okay with mistakes.
Not just okay with them, but that sees them as learning opportunities.
Right, exactly. Like Emily Hartstone, she's from the Heart Management. She talked about this people-first approach.
Yeah, creating a team where everyone feels supported, and empowered to learn from those mistakes.
Not afraid to make them in the first place.
Which is so important, that lack of fear. Trey Farrow, the guy from Spot Pet Insurance, he really emphasized that open communication.
Being able to talk about mistakes openly, that's key.
Everyone benefits, learns together. Makes total sense. And that open communication, I feel like that leads us right into the next big takeaway, these postmortems.
Oh, yeah. Joe Crandall, he's got this interesting background, coming from SEAL teams to Greencastle Associates Consulting.
Yeah, that's a unique perspective.
Big advocate for those after-action reviews.
Which are basically meetings, right? But structured, designed to debrief.
Analyze everything, successes, failures, extract the lessons.
This part's really interesting. Crandall said those after-action reviews, they should be ego-free.
Yeah, no matter who you are on the team.
Everyone should give and receive feedback openly.
Leads to some really important questions, too.
Yeah.
How do we make those reviews effective, Make sure they actually lead to positive changes.
That's the key, right? There are different frameworks out there, different ways to approach it.
Definitely. Let's dive into those because that's where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. Let's get practical.
One that's pretty popular is the 5 whys technique. It's really simple, actually. You start with a problem, then ask why. 5 times.
5 times.
Yeah, you keep digging deeper and deeper to get to that root cause, like peeling back layers of an onion.
Oh, I get it. So you're not just addressing the surface issue, you're trying to figure out what's really going on underneath.
Exactly. And there's another one called the AAR, stands for After Action Review.
Sounds intense.
It is, in a good way.
Yeah.
It comes from the military, and the idea is to review what you planned.
Versus what actually happened.
Right. Then you analyze why those two things might be different and what you can learn from that.
So it's not just about what went wrong.
No, it's about the whole picture, the successes too.
Taking a holistic view.
Exactly. The goal is to learn from everything that happened, good and bad. And that actually connects with what Ryan Lucia talked about. He's the guy from Such and Such Media.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He was all about data-driven decision-making. especially after a setback.
So, like, don't make decisions based on emotions when things go wrong.
Right. Step back, look at the data, and let that guide you.
So you're saying it's about being strategic?
Exactly. Not just reacting emotionally, but making informed decisions.
I see. Using data to chart your course. It's interesting, Raquel Gomes from Staffy, she talked about something similar.
Yeah, she had that whole thing about losing joy in her success.
Right, because she was just overworked, hadn't delegated effectively.
It's like she realized data isn't just for business decisions.
It's for personal decisions, too.
Understanding your own limits, your team's capacity.
Making sure everyone's working sustainably and not just pushing all the time.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Hmm.
Which ties into that whole work culture thing we were talking about before, you know?
Right, if you're constantly pushing everyone to the limit.
Burnout becomes a real risk. Speaking of risks, though, we should talk about calculated risks.
The good kind of risk.
Yeah, Jeanine Faulkner from Room 8 Group, she had this really interesting take on it.
What did she say?
She said, true failure isn't about things not working out. It's about not trying at all.
So don't play it safe. Push yourself.
Exactly. And know that you might hit some setbacks. But those are just valuable data points.
Data points, I like that. It's all about reframing how we see those bumps in the road.
Now, Barbara Whitman from IT Zeitgeist LLC, she had a really good point about partners.
Oh, yeah, choosing the right people to work with.
Making sure you share the same values, the same vision for the future.
She had that experience, right, where misalignment with a partner led to problems.
Even though she had planned everything meticulously, things outside of her control.
It's like you could have the best plan in the world,
but if you're not aligned with the people you're working with,
it could all fall apart.
Which is why delegation is so important. You can't do everything yourself.
Right. Recognizing that is actually a strength.
Raquel Gomes' story really highlights that, right? She was burning herself out.
Carrying too much of the burden.
She learned that delegating isn't just good for the business.
It's good for you too.
It's about trusting others, giving them clear expectations, letting them own their work.
And then, even when things go wrong, even when plans fail, there's that whole idea of perseverance.
Pushing through the tough times.
Howard Mackler from Innovation Refunds, he was big on that.
He said, even when an idea doesn't work out the way you thought it would,
there's always something to learn.
And you never know. That failed idea might spark something even better down the line.
So stay curious, stay open.
Exactly. And in the end, like Gary Romano from Civi.Strategy said, we always have a choice.
A choice about how we react to those failures.
Do we wallow in them, or do we learn from them?
It's all about mindset.
Choosing to see setbacks as opportunities.
Now, how do we actually apply all of this?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's what we'll unpack in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll get practical talk strategies.
For building resilience, embracing failure, and creating a more adaptable approach to work and life.
Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about setbacks, mistakes, even failures, and how they're not the end of the world.
In fact, they could be incredibly valuable.
Exactly, like data points on the road to success. And we've heard from all these amazing business leaders, 20 of them,
who've really embraced this idea.
Yeah, they've used it to fuel their own growth. So the big question is, how do we take all this wisdom and apply it to our own lives?
It all starts with a shift in how we see things.
A mindset shift.
Exactly. Instead of fearing failure, we need to reframe it.
Yeah.
See it as an opportunity.
Okay, I like that. But how do we actually do that? How do we go from being afraid to, like, welcoming failure?
Well, one powerful tool is cultivating a growth mindset. It's about approaching challenges with curiosity.
Instead of seeing them as threats.
Right. Asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Not, why is this happening to me?
So it's about seeing those obstacles as chances to grow, to learn new skills.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, having a support system, that's so important.
Absolutely. Mentors, colleagues, friends, people you can turn to for advice, for encouragement.
Someone to listen when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who can offer different perspectives.
That makes a huge difference. Now, another thing that really stood out was the importance of data-driven decision-making.
Oh, yeah, especially when things go wrong.
It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the situation.
Right, but like Ryan Lucia said, you got to remove ego and emotion from the equation.
Take a step back, look at the numbers.
Analyze what happened. Use that information to make smart decisions.
So it's about being more objective, more strategic.
Exactly, not letting our feelings control our choices. And that data can come from all sorts of places.
Customer feedback, market trends, even our own experiences.
Speaking of experiences, those postmortems, those are really interesting.
The after-action reviews. Yeah, I like that idea.
Joe Crandall, he was all about them.
He said it's important to debrief, to learn, regardless of whether you succeeded or failed.
And remember, those reviews, they should be ego-free zones.
Everyone should feel comfortable sharing their thoughts.
Exactly. Creating a culture of continuous learning, where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth.
Now, data is important, but we can't forget about taking risks.
Calculated risks, of course.
Right. And Jean Ann Faulkner, she had that great line about how true failure isn't about things not working out, it's about not trying at all.
So powerful, right? Sometimes playing it safe is the riskiest thing you can do.
If you're not willing to push yourself to step outside your comfort zone, you might miss out on amazing opportunities.
But calculated risk-taking doesn't mean just jumping in blindly.
You gotta assess the potential downsides, have a plan B.
Be ready to adjust if things don't go as expected. And speaking of planning, remember what Barbara Whitman said about choosing partners carefully.
Making sure you're on the same page, sharing the same values.
If you're not aligned from the start, it can create all sorts of problems down the line.
Even with the best intentions, even with the best plans, there are going to be challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to feel overwhelmed, stretched too thin.
That's where delegation comes in.
Recognizing that you don't have to do everything yourself.
That's so important, and Raquel Gomes learned that the hard way.
She was burning herself out, trying to do it all.
But delegating effectively, it's not just about freeing up your time.
It's about empowering your team, creating a more sustainable way of working.
Trusting others, giving them clear expectations, letting them grow.
And when those setbacks do happen, remember to persevere.
Like Howard Mackler said, even when an idea fails, there's always something to learn.
He even said that a failed idea can spark something even better down the road.
So keep your eyes open, keep learning, and never give up.
And ultimately, how we respond to failure is a choice.
Like Gary Romano said, we can wallow in it or we can learn from it.
It's all about our mindset, choosing to see those setbacks as opportunities for growth.
So as we wrap up, remember, the road to success, it's not always smooth.
There are going to be bumps along the way.
But by embracing these lessons, by cultivating resilience, perseverance, and a growth mindset,
We can navigate those challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
keep learning, keep growing, and never be afraid to fail forward.
Until next time.
Thanks for joining us on Wood.